The song had changed. Catelyn Stark felt it before she truly heard it. A shift in the hall's heartbeat, like a muscle tightening under bruised flesh. Laughter thinned around her. The rattle of cups, the scrape of trenchers, all of it seemed suddenly loud and sharp and far away. She watched a drop of wine slide down the side of her goblet, felt the weight of it cooling her fingers, and realized the musicians had slipped from one tune into another. The Rains of Castamere. Her throat closed. The last time she had heard that song, it had been at Riverrun, played soft by a Lannister harper whose hands shook when he met her eyes. Here, at the Twins, beneath the painted towers and leering stone faces of House Frye, the melody was slower, heavier, as if the bow drawing across the strings were sawing through bone. "Robb," she whispered, her hand seeking her son's arm beneath the table. He had been smiling, in that tired, distant way he had of late, watching his uncle Edmure and the little Frye girl dance. His face was thinner than it had been when he'd ridden south from Winterfell. The boy who chased her through the gods' wood was gone. A young king sat beside her now, wounded and weary and proud. But at the sound of her voice, at the way her fingers dug into his sleeve, he turned, blue eyes sharpening. "What is it, mother?" "The song." Her voice felt strange in her own ears. "Listen." He did. Around them, Great John Umber roared at some jest, pounding the table with a meaty fist. Roose Bolton sat pale and still as ice further down, his eyes half-lidded. Men in gray and brown and rusted mail drank beside men in Frye blue and silver. Edmure, red-faced and grinning, spun Rosalind Frye clumsily across the floor, her veil fluttering. Yet amid all of it, the song wound through the air like smoke from a pyre. Robb's jaw tightened. "It's only a song. It's that song." Her gaze swept the rafters, the galleries. Frye men filled them, more than there had been earlier. Crossbowmen, she realized, seeing the line of a stock here, the glint of steel there. Her pulse stuttered. Where is the Blackfish? Her uncle had excused himself not long before. Too much wine, too many frays. Catelyn had watched him leave with an odd twist in her gut, a sense of something breaking, though she tried to tell herself it was only fear of this fragile peace. Relieving himself in some poor phrase piss-spot, "I'd wager." Robb forced a half-smile, but she felt the tension in him. He had worn his sword to table, despite the insult it would cause. That had been her doing, and gray winds. The dire wolf had snarled at the Frye men when they tried to bar him from the hall. Only after much persuasion had Robb consented to leave him chained beneath the eastern tower. "Look at them," Catelyn murmured, voice almost lost beneath the music. "Robb, look." He followed her gaze. Lord Walder sat hunched on his dais, his mottled hands like talons on the arms of his chair. The old man was grinning, but there was nothing warm in it. Around him stood his brood, sons and grandsons and bastards, a forest of Frye faces, some amused, some flat, all watchful. Robb's fingers brushed the pommel of his sword. "If I rise now and call for our men to leave, they would call it insult." Catelyn's mouth was dry. "They would call it cause." He looked at her. "A boy for a heartbeat. And if we stay?" The Rains of Castamere swelled. Above, a Frye crossbowman adjusted his grip. The air smelled of roast beef, spilled ale, and something else. Something metallic and just beginning to rise, like the distant scent of a coming storm. Catelyn Stark had lived long enough among Southrons to know what that song meant when Lannisters paid for it. But these were frays, and they made petty slights and small betrayals, not grand ones. Unless, a quiet voice whispered in her, unless the Lannisters had paid for them too. "Roose," she said abruptly, leaning past Robb, her hand on the table edge. Roose Bolton's pale eyes slid to her. They reflected the candlelight dully, like curdled milk. "My lady." She stared at him, seeking some flicker of warmth, some human thing, and found only a cold, damp stillness. He had always been like that, she thought distantly, a chill at the edge of the firelight. "Will you dance?" she asked him. One dark brow twitched. "I do not dance. I insist." Her fingers were already moving, reaching for his sleeve, needing to see what lay beneath the gray wool. He shifted away, but not quickly enough. For an instant, as his cuff pulled back, she saw the glimmer of mail, fine and black as a spider's web, clinging close to his skin. Her stomach dropped. "Robb," she said again, her voice a knife this time. "He is in steel." Robb's chair scraped back. The music stopped on a sour string. For half a heartbeat, the hall hung in silence. Then Catelyn heard the sound that would haunt her dreams for the rest of her life. The sudden, hungry clatter of crossbows being drawn to the shoulder. "Robb!" she screamed. He was already moving. The first volley hit like a thunderclap. Men fell with trencher knives still in their hands, red blossoming on their throats, their cheeks, the backs of their skulls. A crossbow bolt tore through Great John Umber's raised arm, punching clean through the meat and pinning a strip of his sleeve to the table. He roared, more in fury than pain, and ripped it free with a spray of blood. "Steel!" he bellowed, overturning the bench with one massive kick. "Steel and shield, you bastards!" More bolts hissed down, fast and merciless. A northern boy she did not know, one of the Karstarks, perhaps, pitched backward with a feathered coral through his eye. A fry near the door drew sword and plunged it into the belly of a drunk piper man, who had not even risen from his seat. Robb Stark cleared his blade, the sound of it leaving the scabbard cut through the screams. Sharp, bright, as if Winterfell's own heart had been unsheathed. He seized his mother by the arm, dragging her behind the high table as another volley slammed down, bolts splintering wood where they had sat a heartbeat before. "Behind me," he snapped. Catelyn stumbled after him, skirts tangling, her heart hammering so hard she could feel it in her teeth. Men crashed against them, some falling, some scrambling for cover. Somewhere Edmure was shouting Roslin's name. Somewhere a woman was sobbing, high and broken. Lord Walder had not moved from his chair. "Enough!" he croaked conversationally, as if quarreling children disturbed him. "Kill the bloody wolf." Bolts snapped past Robb's shoulder. He raised his sword toward the nearest gallery, shouting, "To me! To the king!" Some came, Mormont men with their bare sigil darkened by wine. A pair of tall hearts, one dragging the other by an injured leg. Blackwood archers who snatched up fallen crossbows, turning them toward the rafters. Others died where they sat, too drunk or too slow. "Mother down." Robb shoved her toward the dais. She fell hard against the base of the fry table, breath knocked from her. When she looked up, she saw Roose Bolton standing not far away, untouched in the storm, his pale eyes following Robb with interest, the ghost of a smile curling his lips. "He knows," she thought. He knew this was coming. Another volley. A bolt grazed Robb's left shoulder, tearing through cloth and padding but not the chainmail beneath. He hissed, staggered, then recovered as Great John barreled into him from the side, knocking him behind the overturned high table. "Your Grace," Umber grunted, blood streaming down his arm. "We get you out of here, or all this is for naught." "Grey Wind," Robb gasped. "They'll kill him first." "Your wolf's got more sense than all of us together," Great John snapped, dragging him up. "He'll smell treachery afore we see it. Move." Catelyn hauled herself to her feet. "Robb!" He caught her by the hand. His fingers were slick with someone's blood. Maybe his, maybe not. "We break for the East Tower," he shouted into her ear over the din, the stair by the kitchens. "Blackfish will see the riverward gate open if he can. If he still lives," she choked. "He lives," Robb said. There was no time for doubt. "He must." The Great John shouldered his way forward, overturning benches, sending startled Freys sprawling. A Karstark man-at-arms fell in beside them, shield raised over his king's head. Another bolt thudded into the wood, quivering, inches from Robb's temple. Fry men were screaming now too. The Blackwoods had found their mark. Crossbowmen toppled from the galleries into the chaos below. Somewhere at the back of the hall, a door crashed open and a river of northern men surged in. Those who had not been invited to the high tables, who had been told to drink in the yard. They came anyway. They came with swords naked and eyes wide, seeing their lords cut down before them. And the sound they made was not the roar of drunk soldiers, but the howl of men whose very name was being murdered. "King in the north!" someone shouted, voice cracking, spread, ragged but growing. "King in the north! King in the north!" Robb's fingers tightened on her hand. Catelyn felt something catch in her chest. A sob and a laugh twisted together. Bolton stood in their path. He had not drawn his sword. The chaos had parted around him, as if the storm broke on an invisible rock. He regarded Robb with that pale, incurious gaze and said, almost gently, "Your Grace, you should have left your wolf outside these doors." "I did," Robb snapped. Blood ran down his arm where the bolt had scraped him, darkening the direwolf embroidered on his sleeve. "Get out of my way." Roos's eyes flicked once to Catelyn's face, then back to Robb's. "There are too many," he said. "You cannot win here." "Then I won't try." Robb bared his teeth. "I only need to live." He lunged. For a moment Catelyn thought he meant to cut Bolton down there and then, but his blade flashed past the man's shoulder, cleaving the air where a Frey spearman had been rushing up behind. The point took the spearman in the throat. He fell choking, blood spraying. Great John barreled into Bolton at the same instant, shoulder first, sending the Leech Lord staggering aside. "Out of the way, you pale leech," Umber snarled. "This is Wolf's work now." Bolton hit the side of the Frey table, upsetting cups and dishes. Wine splashed his face. He did not blink. Catelyn saw his hand close briefly on the hilt of his sword, then loosen. There was calculation in that pale gaze, weighing futures. Robb did not look back. With Great John breaking a path and the Karstark shieldman holding fast, they plowed toward the kitchen door, Catelyn stumbling behind, her skirts soaked with wine and blood. She heard Lord Walder shrieking somewhere behind them, his thin old man's voice cutting through the din. "Don't let them out! Don't let the young wolf out!" Catelyn looked back just once, over her shoulder. She saw Edmure on his knees beside Rosalind, trying to shield her with his own body as Frey men closed in, swords red. She saw a Piper man dragging himself by his hands, his legs useless, leaving a smear on the rushes. She saw Roose Bolton, calm amid the slaughter, watching them go. "Our folly," she thought, a cold clarity settling over her as the kitchen door loomed ahead. "My folly. I brought him here." The door burst open. Heat and the stink of boiled meat washed over them. The cooks had fled or were sprawled where they had fallen. A spit boy lay with his head half smashed, a ladle still in his hand. "Up!" Great John panted, gesturing with his bleeding arm. "Stairs. We'll make for the gate." "Grey wind," Robb said again, hoarse. Catelyn seized his face, forcing him to look at her. "You are the king in the north," she said. "If you die here, everything dies with you. Your wolf knows his duty. Duyos." For a heartbeat he stared at her, his eyes very young and very old at once. Then he nodded. They ran. The stair was narrow and steep, the stone worn smooth by generations of Frey feet. Men died badly in such places, jammed shoulder to shoulder, unable to swing their swords, crushed beneath their own comrades' boots. Catelyn heard the clash of steel below, the guttural curses of northern men, the higher shouts of Freys. Great John was too large for the stair. He wedged his shoulders against the walls and drove himself upward with sheer fury, his wounded arm hanging useless at his side, his good hand clenched around the hilt of his long sword. "Move, you goats!" he snarled at the Karstark shieldman ahead of him. "I've shat things bigger 'en this tower." Robb stayed just behind Catelyn, one hand at her back, sword in the other. His breath came hard and fast. She could hear the wet catch in it where pain laced through his shoulder. At the first landing, a pair of Frey guards appeared, drawn by the noise. One wore mail, the other a leather jerkin with a greasy wine stain down the front. Both froze for a heartbeat at the sight of the blood-slick king in the north driving up the stair toward them. "7 hells?" the mailed one breathed, raising his spear. Great John hit him like a charging bull. The spear glanced off his shoulder. He did not seem to notice. His sword came down in a brutal, chopping arc that split the Frey's helm and the skull beneath. The second guard turned to run, tripping over his own feet. Robb's blade flashed past Catelyn's shoulder, taking the man in the back. He fell coughing, leaving his life on the steps. They climbed. By the time they burst onto the outer walkway of the East Tower, Catelyn's legs burned and her lungs felt full of broken glass. The night hit her like cold water, shocking and sharp. The sky above the twins was a low, oppressive ceiling of cloud, reflecting the orange glow of torches and burning thatch from the outer yards. Screams rose from the darkness below. She leaned briefly against the parapet, chest heaving, and saw the slaughter was not contained to the hall. Frey men were butchering their guests wherever they found them. In the yards, on the walls, in the muddy spaces between the towers. Northern men fought back where they could, but they had come unarmored, trusting to guest right and faith. Fools, she thought. We were all fools. Gate, Robb said. We must reach the riverward gate. The Blackfish, the river. She forced herself upright. This way. The walkway ran along the outer wall, exposed to arrow fire from the far tower, but there was no time for caution. They ran hunched, Great John looming like some bloody, half-mad titan, roaring defiance at any Frey foolish enough to show his head above the battlements. A few arrows hissed past, one nicking Catelyn's sleeve, but none found a killing mark. At the corner tower, they nearly collided with Brynden Tully. He stepped from the shadow as if he'd been carved from it, sword naked and face grim. Blood speckled his armor, but he seemed otherwise unhurt. Behind him, half a dozen rivermen bristled with stolen Frey spears and swords. About bloody time, the Blackfish growled. I was starting to wonder if I'd have to swim to Riverrun alone. Catelyn made a sound that was half laugh, half sob. Uncle, later. He seized her briefly by the arm, eyes softening for a heartbeat, then fixed on Robb. Your Grace, the river gate is ours for the moment. Freys are still busy gutting guests. If we move now, we may get you out with enough men left to make you a nuisance. Nuisance? Great John snorted. I'll show them nuisance. I'll shove Lord Walder's own towers right up his. Later, Brynden repeated flatly. Move. They moved. Down another stair, this one broader, smelling of damp moss and old stone. The din of battle swelled as they descended. The clash of steel, the snap of crossbows, the low, awful sounds of dying men. The corridor opened onto a covered passage that led straight to the river gate. Bodies lay thick along its length. Freys in blue and silver, Northmen in gray and brown, birds already pecking at whatever eyes they could find. At the gate itself, Tully men held the inner arch, shields locked, spears braced. Beyond them, under the raised portcullis, Catelyn glimpsed the dark shine of the tumblestone and, bobbing against the stone quay, 3 flat-bottomed ferryboats and a broader-bellied river galley with Tully trout hastily painted over Frey towers. Brynden had been busy. The outer yard won't hold long. One of the rivermen grunted, glancing back. They're mustering. Freys can muster themselves into their own graves, the Blackfish said. Our work is here. Get the king aboard. Take as many as you can carry. Any man who holds this gate buys you time with his life, your grace. Don't waste it. Robb looked at the boats, the river, the men at the gate. How many can you hold with? He asked. Enough. Brynden's smile was thin and wolfish. Go. Catelyn opened her mouth to protest, to offer to stay, to argue, to bargain. But Robb was already turning, already striding toward the quay. Karstark, he called. Umber, with me. The surviving Karstark shieldman hesitated. My lord, my king, that is an order. Robb's voice cracked like ice. The North will need its strongest men. You will not die in some Frey tunnel like a rat in a trap. Not while I have breath. Great John bared his teeth. I've no mind to die in a tunnel neither, he admitted, glaring at the Blackfish. But I'll not slink away while you lot have your glory. You'll have more than glory, Brynden said. You'll have vengeance if the gods are kind. Now get your king out of my sight before I throw him in the river myself." Catelyn caught her uncle's gaze as she passed him. 1,000 things pressed against her tongue. Apologies, please, thanks. He gave her one sharp nod. "Tell Edmure," he said. Her heart twisted. "If I can. Tell him I did something bloody useful for once." The corners of his eyes crinkled. "Go, Cat, before it's truly too late." They went. The river air was cold and thick with mist. Men clambered into the boats, hands slick with blood and river slime. Someone was sobbing openly. Someone else kept muttering a prayer to the seven in a cracked whisper. The galley rocked as more weight thudded onto her deck. Robb helped his mother across the gangplank. His wounded shoulder jarred. His face went white, but he did not falter. Catelyn's boots slipped on wet wood. Strong hands caught her, steadied her. A Mormont man with half his beard singed off gave her a grim nod. "Your Grace," he said to Robb. "We ready?" "Not yet." Robb turned back to the quay. "There's still." As if to answer him, a thunderclap of sound rolled down the tunnel. The smashing collision of shield walls, the shouts of men locking in mortal embrace. Bryndon's voice rose above it for an instant, raw and fierce, like a river in flood. Then the Freys were there, a flood of blue and silver at the archway, pressing against the Tully line. "Cast off!" someone shouted. The ropes came free. The galley drifted, slow at first, then faster as the current caught her. Arrows hissed from the gate like angry hornets. One struck the rail near Catelyn's hand, quivering. She watched the portcullis shrink, the archway receding, the figures there blurring into shapes of light and shadow. The Blackfish stood in the center of the gate, sword red, his back to the river, his face turned toward the oncoming tide of Freys. He raised his blade in salute. Catelyn lifted her hand, though she doubted he could see. The river took them. They drifted in silence at first, the only sounds the creak of wood, the slap of water against the hull, the distant, fading clamor of battle. The twins loomed behind them, twin towers blotting out chunks of sky, their reflected faces shivering on the river's surface. Somewhere within those stones, men Catelyn had broken bread with were dying. Robb stood at the stern, hands clenched white on the rail, watching until the towers were half swallowed by mist. "Say it," he murmured, not turning. "Say what you're thinking, Mother." She swallowed. Her mouth tasted of iron and smoke. "We left them. We saved who we could." His voice was low and tight. "If I had stayed, or you, or Greatjon, we would have died with them. Then there would be no king, no north, no hope, no honor," she said, before she could stop herself. He flinched as if she'd struck him. Catelyn closed her eyes. The image of Brynden standing in that gateway burned behind her lids. "I am sorry," she said. "It is not fair. None of this is fair." "Fair?" Robb laughed once, a short, harsh sound that had no mirth in it. "Was it fair when Father lost his head on Joffrey's whim? Was it fair when Theon—" His jaw worked. "Fairness is a Southron luxury. The North cannot afford it now." He turned at last to face her. His face was streaked with soot and blood, a thin line of crimson running from the graze on his shoulder down into the direwolf's open jaws on his doublet. His eyes, though, were clear, hard. "They broke guest right," he said. "The Freys, and the Lannisters, if they had a hand in this. They spat on the oldest laws of gods and men. I will not let that stand. We have lost so much," she whispered. "Your bannermen, our strength, our chance. We still have the North," Robb said. "As long as there is breath in me, it is not lost. The North remembers. They will not forgive this. They will not forgive me either, if I let it pass and creep back to Winterfell with my tail between my legs." "Winterfell?" The word twisted in her. "Smoke and stone and snow. If there is anything left of it, there will be." His mouth set. "Or we will build it again from the bones of those who took it. But I will not slink home while Tywin Lannister makes jests about drowned wolves and wedding feasts." He looked back toward the faint outline of the twins, now little more than darker smudges against the clouds. "They think they have ended me," he said softly. "Ended the North. Instead, they have given me a banner no man can ignore." Catelyn frowned. "What banner?" "Outrage." His fingers tightened on the rail. "Every house that has ever broken bread at another's hearth will feel a chill at this tale. Every lord who has ever ridden into a parley under a peace banner will wonder if his host waits with a crossbow behind the arras. Freys have made the trident a butcher's yard. Lannisters have laughed in the face of gods. There will be those whose hearts are stirred by that mother. Those who will see more danger in Tywin's way than in mine. You would use this," she said slowly. "Turn slaughter into a spear for yourself." "What else can I do?" he asked. "We cannot unkill the dead. We can only make certain they did not die for nothing." The cold logic of it hurt because she knew he was right. Ned Stark would have hated it, she thought. Or perhaps he would not. Perhaps he too would have seen that honor and duty were not always the same road. "Where?" she asked. "If you mean to go on, where can you go? Riverrun might stand with us still, if the Freys have not turned coat there. But King's Landing is a viper's nest," Robb said. "Yet that is where the head lies. Cut off the head, and the rest will thrash and bite as it dies," Catelyn finished bleakly. "Perhaps." He glanced toward the bow, where Great John stood conferring with the Mormont man and a pair of Blackwood archers. "Or perhaps it will look for another head to follow, one that has not bathed its halls in murdered guests." She stared at him. "You would march on King's Landing?" "Yes," he said simply. "I would." "You have what? 200 men here? 3? "More will rally to us," Robb said. "Once word spreads of what was done at the Twins, there will be deserters from Fry and Lannister both. There will be river lords who would rather follow a wolf than a weasel. The North is not yet broken. Manderley holds White Harbor. Glover, Serwyn, Tallheart. Any who yet live will not meekly bend the knee to a Fry. And Stannis," Catelyn said slowly. "He lost at the Blackwater, but he still holds Dragonstone. He has a fleet. Stannis Baratheon would burn half the realm to light the other half," Robb muttered. "He is no friend of mine." "No," Catelyn agreed. "But he is no friend of Lannister either. And he has something you do not, ships and a claim to the Iron Throne that others might accept. You cannot wear a crown made entirely of northern ice. Not if you mean to sit the chair of swords." He studied her for a long moment. "I swore the North would be free," he said at last. "That we would have our own king, our own laws, our own fate. And you may yet keep that oath," she replied, her voice soft but steady. "But to strike at King's Landing, you will need more than northern fury. You will need Southron discontent. You will need to turn their own games against them, as they have turned them against you. An alliance, Robb, however bitter." His jaw worked. The boat rocked gently under them, carrying them away from the Twins, down toward Riverrun and whatever remained of their strength. "I will not bend the knee to Stannis," he said finally, "but I might speak with him." Catelyn let out a breath she had not realized she was holding. "Then our road is clear. Riverrun to rally what we can. Then to White Harbor if Manderley's ships still float. And from there..." She looked south, where beyond hill and wood and burning village, the great, corrupt heart of the realm beat on. "From there," Robb said, following her gaze, "we march on the Lion's Den." Riverrun smelled of damp stone and old fish and fresh grief. The banner still flew from its towers, the leaping silver trout of Tully, the dire wolf of Stark quartered beside it. But the men who walked its walls did so with the wary, hollow-eyed look of those who had heard that the ground itself might betray them. Word of the Red Wedding had reached the castle before the galley. A half-drowned scout had staggered into the outer ward in the deepest part of the night, dripping river water and Fry blood, babbling of crossbows and treachery. By the time the Galeas of survivors appeared on the tumblestone, Riverrun's gates were shut and its archers grimly manned. Then the cry had gone up, "The king! The king lives!" The solar had once been Hoster Tully's, filled with his mementos and his wheezing, fading breath. Now it served as a war room. The old lord was gone, taken by the river and the gods he had so often cursed. Edmure sat in his place now, his face pale and drawn, Rosalind at his side with red-rimmed eyes and hands clenched white in her lap. "They did not tell me," Edmure said for perhaps the dozenth time, staring at his uncle's map as if it might explain anything. "I swear to you, Cat, they did not tell me. I never would have." "I know," Catelyn said quietly. Her heart hurt, but she would not add that stone to his burden. "Walder Frey is capable of many things, but trusting my brother is not among them." Rosalind's fingers twisted in her skirts. "Father lied to me as well," she whispered. "He told me I was to bring peace." A bitter little laugh escaped her. "I thought I was being married to a hero. I suppose I was. Just not the one he meant." Her eyes went to Robb then, standing at the head of the table, weight leaning over the map. She looked at him the way a woman might look at a sword freshly pulled from a fire, with awe and fear of what it might do. "We cannot hold the trident against them now," said Lord Blackwood. His dark beard shot with gray. He placed a carved raven on the map, near the twins. "Walder Frey holds the crossing. If Tywin sends his strength east, we will be flanked and cut apart." "Tywin Lannister is half bronze and half bile," muttered Great John. "But he ain't stupid. He'll march sure as shit. He'll want the job finished proper." Edmure raked both hands through his hair. "So we retreat to the Vale? To the Neck? We can fall back to Moat Cailin, make them bleed themselves out on its stones. And what then?" Robb's voice was quiet but carried. "We let them rule the rest of the realm while we cower behind marsh and ruin? Wait for winter to starve us all." "Better starved than flayed," Lord Blackwood said dryly. "Bolton has turned, make no mistake. Frey would not have dared such a thing without Lannister coin and northern knives behind him." Catelyn's stomach clenched. She had seen Roos's calm, distant gaze as they fled, the way he had not drawn his sword. "Unsure as we are of our friends," she said, "we know our enemies well enough. Tywin, Frey, Bolton, Joffrey, if he has wit enough to wake himself between cruelties. And what of Greyjoy, Manderly's man, Ser Wylis, a thick-set knight with streaks of silver in his hair, spoke up for the first time. The Kraken stirs still in the north. They hold Moat Cailin, or did when last we heard." Robb's fingers moved across the map, tracing roads and rivers. "A Kraken dies badly away from the sea. Let them choke in our bogs. They will be dealt with, but not today." "Then what is your plan, your grace?" Blackwood asked. There was no challenge in it, only the weary pragmatism of a man who had buried too many sons for blind faith. Robb looked up. "War has been waged in this Riverland for too long," he said. "We have let the Lannisters choose the ground and the manner of our battles. No longer. They have shown that they will not honor guest right or parley. They have shown that they prefer the knife in the dark to the sword in the field. So be it. We will not give them another feast to poison." He tapped King's Landing on the map, the small crown etched above its name. "We will strike here." Silence fell. Edmure blinked. "You mean to march on the city? With what? We have been bled white, Robb." "The phrase. We still have near 8,000 men between Riverrun and the host that did not attend the wedding," said Blackwood, surprising Catelyn. "My ravens brought word this morning. Ser Helman Tallheart escaped the twins with near 1,000 of his men when the slaughter began. They fell back towards Seagard. Jason Mallister holds there yet. They will come if you call, your grace. And the north." Ser Wylis Manderly shifted his weight. "White Harbor stands ready. Lord Wyman sent me south to speak for him, and I have no doubt how he will answer when he hears of Frey treachery. He has ships, men, coin, and he has not forgiven the Lannisters for the fate of Lord Eddard, nor the Freys for their insults. So we march from here to White Harbor?" Great John demanded. "Through half the bloody north while Tywin closes his hand around our arses?" No, Robb shook his head. We cannot outmarch Tywin on land. He will be expecting us to fall back, to lick our wounds. We will not give him that satisfaction. He looked at Manderley's man. How many ships can White Harbor muster in haste? Ser Wylis pursed his lips. In haste? Perhaps 30 war galleys and thrice as many cogs and traders that could be fitted with arms, if Lord Wyman commands it. Enough to carry 5,000 men, if tightly packed. And Seaguard. Robb turned to Edmure. Mallister's fleet? 10 warships, Edmure said. Perhaps a few more, if he can raise them from his vassals. But they alone cannot break the Redwyne fleet or whatever remains of the Royal Navy. We will not ask them to, Robb said. We will ask them to carry us. From Seaguard to White Harbor, gathering strength. Then down the coast, avoiding major ports, landing where least expected. Catelyn saw it then, not as lines on parchment but as a living thing. Wolves and trout and ravens and mermen slipping along the teeth of the realm's eastern shore, coming up where the Lannisters least wanted them. King's Landing's strength lies in the Rosby Road and the King's Road, Robb said. Armies from the Reach, from Casterly Rock, from the Stormlands. They do not expect a host to rise from the sea like some vengeful spirit. Not from the north, not from us. Stannis came by sea, Blackwood pointed out. He burned their fleet, but he still lost at the Blackwater. Stannis came with a hammer and thought it enough, Robb replied. We will come with a knife as well. We will not simply batter their walls. We will cut their allies away first. The Stormlands seethe, I am told. The Reach, well, the Tyrells are no true friends of Lannister, only allies of convenience. Clever talk, Great John grunted. But talk won't put us over those walls. Dragonfire, wildfire, mud and shit. Stannis learned what it is to throw your men against that bloody city and watch them die. Robb met his gaze. Then we will not throw them blindly. We will learn from his mistakes. And we will not go alone. He reached to the side of the table and picked up a small carving. A stag leaping. Stannis Baratheon lost the Blackwater, but he did not lose his claim. He sits on Dragonstone now, nursing his wounds and his pride. If he yet lives, he must hate the Lannisters more than any man breathing. We will need his fleet, his name, his discontent. He will not share a crown, Catelyn warned. I have met the man. He is iron in the shape of a king. He bends only to break. Then we shall not ask him to bend, Robb said quietly. We will ask him to recognize the truth. That King's Landing is a nest of vipers that must be cleared if any hope of justice is to survive. If he takes the Iron Throne afterward, let him. The North will have its price. What price? Blackwood's voice was wary. Our freedom. Robb's hand closed around the little wooden stag. The Starks will not bow to the Iron Throne again. Not in my reign. If Stannis wants our swords to help him take that ugly chair, he will sign away any claim to the North. The Trident, too, if Edmure wishes it. Edmure swallowed. You would make me a king? I would make you what you should have been if not for Aegon and his damned dragons, Robb said. King of the Trident. Or Lord Paramount with true freedom in all but name, if that is the better road. But first we must live, and to live we must strike. The Red Wedding made any retreat a slow drowning. I will not drown. Silence fell again. Catelyn looked at her son. He stood tall, despite his wound. His head held like Ned's had been when he passed judgment on deserters in the snow. There was Stark in him and Tully and something else, a harder, sharper edge that had been honed on war and betrayal. Stannis may refuse, she said softly. He may spit in your face and call you oathbreaker and usurper. He may demand you bend the knee without condition. Then I will not. Robb slid the stag across the map until it rested just off Dragonstone's painted shore. But I think he will listen. The gods have given him a second chance at his war, just as they have given me. Men like Stannis do not ignore such things. Then we send a ship, Blackwood said. A swift one. With men Stannis will respect. Davos Seaworth was once his man, Ser Wylis mused. A smuggler, but with more honor than most knights. If he yet lives, he might be Stannis' conscience. But how to reach him? I will go, Catelyn said. The words surprised even her. The men in the room stared. Mother, Robb began. You need someone who knows Stannis, she said, keeping her voice from shaking by will alone. Someone he cannot easily dismiss, who bears a name he cannot ignore. He once came to Riverrun to speak with Hoster before Robert's rebellion. He knows our house. He will remember my father, if not me. If you send a man, Stannis will meet him with stubbornness and pride. If you send Ned Stark's widow, she met Robb's gaze. He will see a woman with more reason to hate the Lannisters than even he, and yet one who is willing to speak instead of curse. He might listen. I will not risk you again, Robb said sharply. I nearly lost you at the Twins. I will not. You will risk many things, she interrupted. Before this is done, my life is but one, and I will not sit within these walls and stitch banners while my son's fates are decided on distant shores. Their eyes locked. At last, slowly, Robb nodded. Very well, he said. You will go to Dragonstone. The black mass of Dragonstone rose from the sea like something the gods had dropped and forgotten. From a distance, it was only a darker smear against the gray, but as the galley cut closer through the chop, its shape resolved into jagged spires and talons, a mountain carved into the likeness of a dragon curling out of the waves. Hundreds of stone gargoyles clung to its walls, their mouths twisted in silent screams, wings outstretched, claws digging into the black basalt as if they too feared to fall. Catelyn Stark had seen it once before, long ago, when she was a girl at Riverrun and her father had taken her down the narrow sea to treat with Lord Stannis for Robert's rebellion. Then, Dragonstone had seemed like a story made stone. Now, it looked like a judgment. The sea wind bit through her furs. Salt spray stung her cheeks. She kept her hands wrapped around the rail, knuckles white, watching as the narrow, jagged harbor mouth opened between two fanged jetties. Firelight burned in braziers at their tips, orange halos shimmering on the water. Signal, milady, the captain called hoarsely. A grizzled man from White Harbor. He looked no happier to be here than she felt. They'll not let us within bowshot without it. He had already ordered the Stark and Tully banners raised. The direwolf and trout snapped in the wind atop the mast, defiant against the Dragon Mountain. Now he lifted a horn, wind-burned cheeks puffing as he sounded a long, rising note. For a moment there was nothing, only the slap of waves against stone and the distant caw of gulls. Then a trumpet answered, sharp and short, from somewhere above the harbor mouth. Shadows moved along the high walls. She saw the glint of helms, the spidery silhouettes of scorpions and ballistae. Pray they don't choose to test us, murmured Ser Wyllis Manderly at her shoulder. Dragonstone's teeth are sharp. Catelyn's fingers tightened on the rail. If they had wished us drowned, they would have let us sail into the rocks in the dark. Comforting, Ser Wyllis said dryly, though you'll forgive me if I do not feel comforted. The galley turned, following the narrow channel inward. The black cliffs loomed on either side, pocked with caves and dripping ledges. A lone watchtower squatted on a reef like some squashed toad, its beacon smoke streaming sideways in the wind. At last the inner harbor opened, a cramped, crescent-shaped bight gouged into the rock. Half a dozen war galleys rocked at anchor there, their masts bare in the wind, hulls black as oil. Small fires burned on the quays. The smell of pitch and salt and old smoke wrapped around them. Men waited on the nearest dock, dark figures against the torchlight. As the galley bumped against the pilings and the crew threw ropes to the waiting hands, Catelyn saw the banners above them. The crowned stag of Baratheon quartered with a red, flaming heart. She felt an old chill at the sight of that heart. "Seven save us," Ser Wyllis muttered. "The Red Woman still has his ear, then. Or his faith," Catelyn said. "Faith can be as deadly as any ear." A plank thudded into place. The harbor stones seemed to tilt under her first step onto Dragonstone, her land legs slow to take hold. Men in plain, sturdy mail ringed the dock, spears grounded. faces hard and pinched by the wind. One stepped forward, a lean man with a salt and pepper beard and a face like a weathered cliff. A scrap of black cloth, once a hand, was tied around his neck. "Lady Stark," he said, bowing stiffly. "I am Davos Seaworth, hand to King Stannis. Your coming was not expected, but it seems the Seven had other plans." Catelyn regarded him. She knew the name, the smuggler knight, the onion lord risen from small folk to sit at a king's council table. A man who had lost his fingers for his crimes and thanked the man who took them. "My Lord Seaworth," she said, inclining her head, "I am grateful for your welcome. It is more friendly than many I have received of late." Something flickered behind his eyes. "We heard of the events at the Twins," he said. "Old stories travel fast, especially when they stink. Guessed right broken. A king attacked under a wedding banner. Bad omens that my king would not ignore such a thing, even if he wished to." "And does he wish to?" Catelyn asked, unable to keep the edge from her voice. Davos's mouth twitched. "King Stannis wishes to sit the Iron Throne that was his by right 15 years ago. All else he sees as steps toward that end. But he is not blind, my lady, nor deaf. He knows the realm is rotting. He knows who wields the knife." He glanced up at the looming dragon keep, its spires lost in cloud. "And he knows you would not have come this far without reason. Come." The king waits in the hall. The hall of Dragonstone was long and narrow, its roof lost in gloom, its walls lined with more dragons. Stone beasts coiled on pillars, their eyes filled with molten shadow, mouths forever frozen in silent roars. Smoke from braziers clung in the rafters like low clouds, occasionally stirred by a draft that slipped in through cracks in the old stone. At the far end, upon a chair of plain iron and blackwood that looked more like some stern magistrate's seat than a king's throne, sat Stannis Baratheon. He had aged since she had last glimpsed him at a distance on the Trident, a grim, narrow-faced lord in his brother's shadow. His hair had thinned to a dark, receding tide around a broad, lined forehead. The jaw was the same, clenched so often it might have been carved that way. His mouth was a thin, bloodless line. A close-fitting breastplate of black enameled steel covered his chest, the crowned stag of Baratheon picked out in gold upon it, its antlers ensnared by flames. Beside him, almost behind him, stood the Red Woman. Melisandre of Ashai was tall, her red gown clinging like living fire to her form. Her hair, the color of new-spilled blood, fell in waves down her back. Around her slender throat, a great ruby pulsed redly, like a heart torn from something still living. Her eyes were the color of embers when the wind had sucked all flame away, but not the heat. Catelyn felt those eyes on her like fingertips as she approached the dais. Davos walked a pace ahead of her, his shoulders stiff. He stopped at the foot of the steps. "Your Grace," he said, bowing. "May I present Lady Catelyn Stark of House Tully, widow to Eddard Stark, Lord of Winterfell, and mother to Robb Stark, King in the North." "Had heard she was dead," Stannis said without preamble. His voice was harsh as gravel, without the easy cadence Robert had possessed. Shadows and whispers, seems both were wrong, or not entirely. Catelyn dipped in a curtsy that felt more like an old reflex than any gesture of submission. "I have walked nearer death than I would like," she said. "But the gods were not finished with me yet, it seems." "Gods?" Stannis's mouth tightened, as if the word tasted sour. "Which ones? There are too many in this realm. They pull men apart like wolves fighting over a carcass." "A carcass does not bleed as freely as Westeros has of late," she replied. "It is not dead yet. Rot sets in long before flesh stops twitching," Melisandre said softly. Her voice was like silk drawn over a blade. "I have seen it in the flames. This land gutters like a half-spent candle. A great darkness swells over it, hungry and cold. The only darkness I see is Lannister gold and Frey treachery," Catelyn said, meeting her gaze. "If your flames did not show you that, perhaps they were looking the other way." Davos made a strangled sound that might have been suppressed amusement. Stannis's eyes narrowed. "You came to spit at my priestess?" he asked. "Or to ask something of me?" "I came to speak of justice," Catelyn said, "and of necessity, and yes, of asking. Though if there were any other road that did not lead through you, your grace, I would gladly have taken it." One of his brows ticked upward. "Hard words for a supplicant." "I am no supplicant," she said. "I am a mother and a subject to a king. You are a king as well by your own lights. I come as envoy from Robb Stark, king in the north." "King of traitors," Melisandre murmured. "Our armies fought for your brother," Catelyn shot back. "Died for him, bled for him. My husband died for him. If Robert were here, he would spit in the face of anyone who named Ned Stark a traitor." "Robert is not here," Stannis said flatly. "I am." She looked at him. "Then hear me, Stannis Baratheon. Not as the brother you resent. Not as the king you claim to be. Hear me as the man who once hunted smugglers off this very coast. You know what it is for men to break the king's law. You have cut fingers for it. You have taken ships. What was done at the Twins was worse than any onion smuggler's trick. Guessed right, broken. A king invited and butchered along with his men, all under the eyes of the Seven. And," her gaze flicked to Melisandre, "your red god as well. If you care for justice, if you care for the law that binds men together at all, you must answer that." She heard her own voice shake and made no attempt to hide it. Let him hear her rage, her grief, her disgust. Let him feel if he could still feel anything beyond grim duty. Stannis's jaw worked. For a moment he said nothing. At last, quietly, he asked, "How many?" She swallowed. "Thousands. We do not yet know the full count. Many of Robb's bannermen died there. Karstarks, Umbers, Mormonts, Tallhearts, Glovers, Blackwoods, Brackens, men from half the Riverlands who had already lost their homes to the Lannisters' wars. They went to a wedding feast under safe conduct, under bread and salt. They were butchered like cattle. The silence in the hall deepened. Even the crackle of the braziers seemed to hush. "Bread and salt," Stannis said slowly. "Guessed right." His hands clenched on the arms of his chair. The knuckles stood out white. "Phrase," he said. "Walder Frey, old weasel, always sniffing after whatever scraps fell from more powerful men's tables. Paid for with Lannister coin," Catelyn said. "We have not yet proved it, but I would stake my life on it. The timing, the reward, the convenience." Tywin Lannister smiles, that cold smile of his in the dark, counting the dead. "And Bolton," Davos added grudgingly. "If half the tales we hear are true, the Lord of the Dreadfort has been dancing to another man's music. Flaying and betraying in the same breath." Catelyn nodded once. "Roose Bolton wore mail to a wedding feast. He did not join in the slaughter, but he did nothing to stop it. He let my son's men die while he watched." Stannis's eyes burned. "There was a time," he said, "when such things had consequences, when lords who broke the peace of the king's roads, who violated the sanctity of sacred places, paid for it with their heads. Aegon would have had the heads of every Frey of age on spikes along the King's Road from here to the neck for such treachery. Yet Aegon is long dust," Melisandre said softly. "Dragons are no more. The world has grown weaker in its justice, as in its faith." "It need not remain so," Catelyn said. Stannis's gaze pinned her. "What is it you want from me, Lady Stark? Say it." "I want you to do what you were born to do," she said. "To enforce the law with sword and fire if need be. To punish those who have flouted King's justice and God's justice alike. I want you to march on King's Landing." He barked a laugh. Not amused, more startled than anything. "I have already done that once, in case you had not heard. It did not end well." "Because you went alone," she replied. "Because you went with no allies save those the Red Woman's fires whispered to you, and with wildfire licking at your heels. I am not asking you to throw your men against the Blackwater again. I am telling you that you have another chance, one that comes with Northern steel at your side." "Steel?" His eyes flicked to Davos. then back to her. "How much?" 8,000 under my son's direct command, she said. "More on the way. Manderley fleets, Mallister ships, Talhart remnants, Seaguard stands, White Harbor stands. The North is not broken, whatever Tywin Lannister tells himself in his cups. It is angry. My son means to bring that anger south, by sea, where your enemies will least expect it. And you want my ships to carry you?" Stannis said. "To what? To put a wolf on the Iron Throne in my place?" "No," the word surprised even her with its surety. "No, your grace. Robb has no desire for that chair. He wants his father avenged, his people safe, his North free. He will never bend the knee again. He swore it before his banners, before his gods. But he does not want the South. Let some Southron lord sit in that ugly thing if he must. The North has winter to worry about. Winter comes for all." Melisandre's eyes half-lidded. "I have seen snow in the south, wolves in the streets of King's Landing, blood steaming on white marble, fire and night locked in an endless dance." Stannis looked at her with irritation. "Your visions seldom come when they might be useful," he said. "Sit. Listen." She inclined her head, unperturbed. He looked back at Catelyn. "You ask much. You ask me to cede 2 of the 7 kingdoms, perhaps 3, if the Riverlands follow your son. To give away what the law says is mine in exchange for what? For help in taking the rest. For a realm that does not choke itself to death," she said quietly. "For a chance at something better than endless Lannister games and Frey treachery. You may yet sit your throne, Stannis Baratheon. Wear your crown. Dispense your justice. I do not care, truly, who claims the South so long as my children are not hunted like wolves by men who laugh at guest right and smile at slaughter." She swallowed, thinking of Sansa somewhere in King's Landing's maw, Arya lost, Bran and Rickon gods knew where. She still did not let herself linger on the possibility of their deaths. "And if you say no," she went on, "if you cling to every scrap of the realm like a miser clutching his last coins, you will find that when the Lannisters are done with us, they will come for you next. 1 kingdom at a time, like a man plucking limbs from a fly. They have already stolen your nephew's birthright. Do you think they will leave yours untouched when you stand alone and friendless on this rock?" Stannis stared at her for a long moment. "You speak plainly," he said at last. "I have some respect for that. Fewer games than Renly, fewer honeyed phrases than your Southron lords." He rose from his chair abruptly. The movement was sudden enough to startle some of the guards lining the walls. "You ask much," he said again. "And yet, Tywin Lannister sits in my city, wears my crown on my nephew's bastard's head, breaks the king's peace with impunity. Frey's butcher men under guest right and call it a wedding. Bolton's flay in the dark. The law is a joke they tell one another over wine." He paced down the steps until he stood almost level with her. Only a few feet of stone separated them. "The law is not a joke," he said softly. "Not while I breathe." "Then prove it," Catelyn said. For a heartbeat, something like heat flickered behind his eyes. Not the fever-bright madness she had seen in other men, but a hard, cold fire that had been there all along, banked and smoldering. "You say your son will not bend the knee," he said. "Not now, not ever." "He will not," she said. "Not to any southern king." "Then I will not ask him to." The words came out like chips of ice. "If he brings me Lannister heads on spikes and Frey corpses bobbing in the Green Fork, I care little what songs his bards sing in Winterfell's hall. Let the North freeze and crack as it likes, so long as it does not break the king's peace beyond its own rivers." He turned his head toward Davos. "Summon the captains. We will sail south within the fortnight. I want provisions aboard, powder dry, oarsmen ready." "My king," Davos said, bowing. There was a light in his tired eyes Catelyn had not seen there before. Stannis looked back at her. "Tell your son this, Lady Stark. I will march on King's Landing. I will bring the lion and the weasel to heel. I will answer the Red Wedding as it deserves. But I will not forget that I am king of more than my own grudges. If he seeks to cheat me, to play false, I will remember that too. He is his father's son, she said, her throat tight. Say what you will of Ned Stark, but he was never false. Stannis's mouth twisted. Ned Stark died for his honor, he said. Perhaps we both will. But before that day comes, there is much work for us to do. White Harbor woke before the sun, but she did not truly stir until the tide turned. At the change of the tide, the whole city seemed to lean forward, like a dog at the end of a leash. Water surged up the white knife, bearing with it the smells of open sea, brine and tar and the faint, far-off tang of kelp. Bells rang from the harbor's steps and warehouses. Men shouted, ropes creaked, pulleys shrieked as cargo swung from dock to deck and back again. Robb Stark stood on the stone quay with his cloak snapping around him, watching his war take shape. Manderley galleys, stout and broad-beamed, bobbed near the shore, their hulls painted white and green, carved mermen leering from their prows. Further out, leaner northern warships and a handful of Seaguard cogs rocked in the swell. Farther still, Dragonstone's dark, sharp-prowed galleys waited like wolves at the edge of a herd, banners bearing the crowned stag of Baratheon snapping stiffly in the wind. It has an air of madness about it, rumbled a voice at his side. Robb glanced down. Lord Wyman Manderley would have been hard to miss in any crowd. He was a mountain of a man, his girth swathed in rich green velvet trimmed with ermine, his white beard spills of foam upon his chest. He rode not a horse but a wheeled chair that one of his men pushed slowly across the quay, the wood creaking under his weight. His cheeks were red from the cold, his eyes sharp and amused. Madness, Robb echoed. To load the north upon ships and send her south. Wyman waved one plump hand, rings glittering on his fingers. Wolves and mermen, trout and ravens, all crammed into dragon boats, sailing to knock on the lion's own door. Songs will come of this, whether we live or die. Better songs than none at all, Robb said. He had slept little on the journey north, and less since. The letter from his mother had reached him in Riverrun, carried by a ship that seemed to bring with it the smell of strange fires and salt. It had been short and to the point. Catelyn Stark had never been given to wasting ink. Stannis Baratheon will sail. He will meet us at White Harbor. Terms agreed, north and trident free, if we help him take the city. Robb could still feel the weight of the parchment in his hands. It had smelled faintly of smoke. Madness, Great John agreed cheerfully from behind them. His arm was bound in fresh linen and leather, but he had refused any talk of being left behind. But a good sort o' madness, better than sitting in some mud-hole waiting for Lannisters and Freys to come pick our teeth. Lord Fry has no teeth where the sea is concerned, Wyman said, his tone turning oily with pleasure. Oh, he might hire a few ships, scrape some river scows together, but he is not a sea lord. He depends on others to carry his wares. Others who might be persuaded to find their ships delayed when they carry such foul cargo. You mean to choke off his trade, Robb said. Trade is the blood of House Fry, Wyman replied, and blood, as we have seen, spurts quite nicely when the skin is cut. He shall find fewer willing to share his tables once word of his treachery spreads. Fewer to sell him grain, fewer to lend him coin. Some men will do much for gold, your grace. Some will not sell their names so quickly. Robb looked at him sidelong. You relish this. I relish justice, Wyman said blandly, and perhaps a bit of salt in the wound. My lord father bent his knee to Targaryen fire, as did yours. We were never meant to bow to petty river lords. Fry has long forgotten his place. It will be a pleasure to remind him. Robb's gaze slid across the harbor toward the Dragonstone galleys. On the largest of them flew Stannis' own banner, the crowned stag in flames. Beside it, to Robb's quiet satisfaction, snapped the dire wolf of Stark and the leaping trout of Tully, two king's sigils side by side. Have you sailed much, your grace? Wyman asked. A bit, between White Harbor and Barrowton as a boy, Robb admitted. Once to Sisterton with father, to hear some dispute between their lords. Never so far as this. Then you will learn to hate it, Wyman said cheerfully. The sea cares nothing for kings. She will toss you like a driftwood stick if she's in the mood. I find it bracing, myself. Reminds a man that he is small. Useful for a lord now and then. Great John snorted. I've no need of some soggy bitch o' a sea to remind me I'm small, he said. The world does that often enough. But if she'll carry me within pissing distance o' Tywin Lannister's tent, I'll forgive her. How stands the Count? Robb asked, turning to Ser Wylis, who held a wax tablet in his gloved hand. Tallies carved in with a stylus. Just under 9,000 men ready to sail within the day, your grace, Ser Wylis said. More will follow on slower ships as we find them. Dragonstone's oarsmen are ready. Our own, well, he offered a wry half-smile. Northmen aren't born with oars in their hands, but they'll pull when they must. And food, enough to get us down the coast with some to spare, Wyman said. After that, we shall have to persuade some southern ports to be generous. Or careless. Robb nodded. It would not be the first time the North had taken what she needed from Southron storehouses. Yet he did not want this campaign to be remembered only for what they had stolen. A horn blew from the outer jetty 3 short blasts. Stannis' flagship was coming in. The Dragonstone galley cut through the harbor with the grace of a predator. Low in the water, oars biting, its prow carved into a dragon's open jaws. The stag and flame banner streamed from the mainmast. Men lined the rail, shields on their arms, faces as hard and wind-scoured as cliffs. Robb watched as she swung in alongside the quay, ropes flying, gangplanks thudding. Davos Seaworth was the first man down. Lean, spare, with that ragged scrap of cloth where fingers should have been. He bowed shortly. Your Grace, he said, welcome to King Stannis' war. Welcome to mine, Robb answered. Stannis himself descended more slowly, encased in black armor that drank the light. The flaming heart had been freshly polished on his breastplate. It shone like something alive. He did not look like a man who loved the sea, though he had been master of ships once. He looked like a man who tolerated it, as he tolerated everything that stood between him and his duty. Stark, he said, as if the name were a judgment rather than a greeting. Baratheon, Robb returned. They stood a moment, measuring one another. Robb took in the lines at the corners of Stannis' eyes, etched deep by salt and strain. The way he held himself, like something had pulled him taut as a bowstring and forgotten to let go. This was no Robert, all laughter and swagger. This was a different sort of storm. You look like him, Stannis said abruptly. Robb's throat tightened. So I'm told. Not just in the face. Stannis' gaze flicked to the direwolf on Robb's breast. He would have done something like this, mad enough to make sense, fool enough to follow through. I take that for praise, Robb said. It isn't, Stannis said, but there was something almost like the ghost of a smile at the corner of his mouth. Still, better to be mad with a plan than sane and waiting for lions. He turned toward the waiting ships. We sail when the tide is full. If your men are not aboard by then, they can swim. They'll be aboard, Robb said. As Stannis moved off to confer with his captains, Catelyn stepped to Robb's side. She looked older than she had even at the twins. The sea wind had not been kind, and the lines of worry seemed carved deeper into her face. But there was a light in her eyes that had not been there when they fled the Fry halls. He agreed, Robb said quietly. He did, she answered, though I think he half hates himself for it. Good, Robb said. Hatred will keep him from changing his mind when it becomes hard. Her mouth twisted. Hatred is a poor leash. We have no others, he said. Not on men like him, on ourselves. He looked out over the harbor, at the patchwork fleet that was about to bear his fate south. We go to cut the head off a lion, he said. If we fail, we die. If we succeed, winter will come as it always does. But perhaps our children's children will call this the season when men remembered how to keep their oaths. And if they don't? Catelyn asked softly. Then they will forget us, Robb said. But the ones we kill will still be dead. The ones we save will still live. That will be enough. They came at King's Landing the way a thief comes to a crowded inn. Through the back, while the music was loudest out front. The sound of the sea cloaked them. Oars dipped and rose, the rhythm of it as steady as a heart. Fog rolled in from the narrow sea, thick and pale, concealing the fleet's approach. Lanterns were hooded, voices were kept low. Even the gulls seemed to have taken wing elsewhere. Ahead, the city rose from the dark water like a many-headed beast at rest. The black bulk of the walls traced the shoreline in a jagged arc. Torches pinpricked the ramparts, tiny suns marking each watch post. Above everything loomed the Red Keep, its towers prickling at the sky. From this distance, the city seemed almost peaceful. Robb knew better. He gripped the railing at the prow of the lead galley, feeling the salt slick wood under his gauntlets, the shiver of the hull with each pull of the oars. Beside him, Stannis stood as rigid as a spear planted in frozen ground, his eyes fixed on the faint glow where the Blackwater rush met the bay. "There," Stannis murmured. "See it." It took Robb a moment, but then he saw a faint greenish shimmer beneath the black surface, like something foul lurking just below. "Wildfire," he said. "Cersei's folly," Stannis replied. "She had it laid in caches all along the Blackwater against my last assault, enough to boil the river. She'd have burned half her own fleet if it meant burning me with it." "Then why are we rowing over it now?" Robb asked dryly. "We are not," Stannis said. "Davos." The smuggler knight stepped closer, his sea cloak whipping in the wind. "The current's different tonight, Your Grace," he said, addressing Stannis but glancing briefly at Robb. "Wind from the east pushes the bloom o' it toward the far bank. We're skirting it as close as we dare. And the chains." He pointed ahead, where the faint suggestion of massive iron links lay just beneath the surface like the spine of some buried leviathan. "They're down," Davos said. "No sign o' them being hauled up. Lannisters have grown lazy, or overconfident, or both," Stannis said. "They think no man would be mad enough to come this way again, after the last time. They think wolves do not learn, and stags do not remember. They think lions are safe in their den," Robb said. "We'll teach them otherwise." The fleet split like a flock of dark birds around some invisible obstacle. Stannis' Dragonstone galleys took the lead, hugging the curve of the bay, angling toward the King's Gate and the muddy stretch of shore beyond the walls, where ships could beach if they had the courage. Manderly cogs followed, heavy with Northmen and rivermen, their hulls low in the water. Seaguard's leaner craft slipped along the flank, ready to dart where most needed. Farther out, half hidden in the fog, a scattering of smaller boats peeled away, eyes fixed on a different mark, the mouth of the Blackwater itself, where smaller posterns and water gates opened under the city's belly. "Your raiding parties are away," Stannis said. "Pray they do their work quickly." "I do not put my faith in prayers," Robb replied. "I put it in steel, and in the men who bear it." "Good," Stannis' mouth quirked. "We agree on something at last." Robb looked along the line of ships. Somewhere in that fog, Great John would be pacing a deck like a caged bear, muttering about finally having his hands on Lannister necks. Somewhere else, Lord Wyman's men would be murmuring salt prayers and oaths to the Manderleys. Blackwoods and Brackens, Riswells and Mormonts, Tallhearts and Karstarks and Tully Sworn, bound together by rage and necessity and the knowledge of what had been done at the Twins. Guessed right, bread and salt, murder. He could feel it in them all, like a current running through the fleet. That cold, focused fury that came not from insult alone, but from the understanding that some lines, once crossed, could never be redrawn. The Freys and Lannisters had poisoned the well from which all lords drank. If no one answered that, then every hall in the realm would become a potential slaughterhouse. We make an example, he thought, not for fear's sake, but to remind them all that oaths mean something. Fire flared along the walls ahead, torches being rushed to and fro, bells beginning to clang. The alarm at last. "They see us," Davos said. "They see something," Stannis corrected. "By the time they see us clearly, it will be too late." Trumpets blared from the city. Robb could just make out shapes running along the ramparts now, like ants stirred from their hill. Siege bells began to toll in earnest, a deep, rolling clang that vibrated in his bones. "Signal," Stannis snapped. A hooded lantern was swung in a slow, looping pattern, its light flaring and dimming. Farther back in the dark, other lanterns answered, repeating the pattern, passing the word down the line. Oars dipped deeper. Drums began to beat, setting the stroke. The galleys surged forward, picking up speed, cutting white scars across the black water. On the walls, he saw the first glint of arrowheads. "Shields!" Robb bellowed, his voice carrying down to the deck. "Shields up! Archers to the fore!" Northern men lifted their shields, a bristling sea of wood and iron along the rails. Behind them, archers knocked and drew, arrows dark against the dim sky. Stannis did not shout. He simply looked to his captains and gave a curt nod. Orders rippled down Dragonstone decks with the surety of long practice. For a heartbeat, as the city loomed and the water hissed and the air filled with the rising howl of bells, Robb felt strangely calm. All the choices that had led him here, the march south, the battles won and lost, the broken alliances and bitter oaths, the red wedding and the river escape and the sea journey north and south again, narrowed down to this: a line of ships charging a wall. His fingers flexed on his sword hilt. "King in the north!" someone roared from the deck below. Others took it up, their voices a ragged, fierce chorus. "King in the north! King in the north!" Above them, on the walls, another cry rose, higher and thinner. "For Joffrey! For the king! Lannister!" Two worlds rushing together. "Loose!" Robb shouted. Arrows flew up from the galley's foredeck in a dark, hissing cloud. A heartbeat later, the city's answer came down.